Hello, Bit Project, and hello, student serverless days. I am so excited, y'all. I have been involved with Bit Project for a while. I've seen many amazing students come through this program and learn basically from nothing, from square zero, all about serverless, create these amazing projects at the end. So I'm very excited to be presenting to you today. So without further ado, let's start our talk. I'm joining you here live in this lovely Microsoft Teams background that looks like Microsoft Paint. If you don't know what that is, I may be aging myself a little bit, but go look up Microsoft Paint or JS Paint if you want to play around with it yourself to see what we used to do back in the olden days when we would play with old Windows machines. Without further ado, let's get into my talk for today. So y'all, I'm here to talk about AI. Okay, don't get scared, right? It's kind of a scary topic if you don't know what it is. I know I can say that firsthand. That's how I felt when I first learned about AI. But I named my talk today, AI Can't Even. Hold for laughter. I tell a lot of dad jokes, so apologies in advance. If you're watching this talk and you don't like a good pun, maybe a good time to turn it off. But today I'm going to tell you all about my journey into working with AI and ML, also known as artificial intelligence and machine learning. I work here at Microsoft on the Next Generation Experiences team, where I get to teach students all about Power Platform, M365, Azure, the cloud. I've done it all, but I'm very excited to tell you how I went from basically knowing nothing about AI, I'll get into that in a second, to making my own models, creating my own machine learning and chatbots. So I'm really excited. Let's get into it. I've got my pal, Clippy, over here joining me today. These are some amazing Microsoft Teams backgrounds that you can actually download. Just search Microsoft Team background Clippy. We've got some really awesome ones like Solitaire, Microsoft Paint, so check those out. But let's get into the talk. It's time to get into AI. How to make AI less like sci-fi. In the talk, AI can't even. Alrighty, let's get into it, shall we? So, who amongst us here knows nothing about AI? I know if you asked me this question about 5 years ago, I knew nothing about AI. Maybe even like 3 or 4 years ago, right? So a little bit about myself before we get into the nitty gritty of how to get started with AI and machine learning. So my name is Chloe Condon. I'm a senior cloud advocate here at Microsoft. I work on the Next Generation Experiences team, so I get to work with our amazing Microsoft student ambassadors, our Imagine Cup participants, and I also get to teach students like you. I am an actress turned developer. I like to share this fact about myself because not everybody comes through a computer science degree, right? I know a lot of people joining us at this conference are maybe attending a boot camp or are in a 4-year computer science degree program. There's so many ways you can learn now with online free resources or getting certifications. Personally, for me, I got a theater degree and I learned about tech much later in life. So I'm here to say, if you're learning how to code for the first time, if you're very new to artificial intelligence and machine learning and you're like, Chloe, what are you talking about? I don't know how to do this. I promise you, by the end of this talk, you'll be able to make your own machine learning, artificial intelligence, chatbots, data models. Oh my gosh, you're going to be able to do it all. Because we all start from somewhere, right? So I previously worked in fields before working here at Microsoft as a cloud advocate. I worked as, oh my goodness, everything, a recruiter, an office manager. I worked in retail. I was a summer camp counselor. I dressed up in costumes for birthday parties. I did just about everything. Customer support for a video game company. I was a virtual assistant. So I really got to work in a lot of administrative roles before I had the job that I have today working at Microsoft. So artificial intelligence. Let's talk a little bit about what this means to us, right? So I don't know about you, but when I first heard about what, or at least the word artificial intelligence, it was from a movie. Okay, maybe some of you recognize this lovely poster here. I saw this movie in theaters, maybe in 4th or 5th grade. One of the only movies that made me cry in theaters. It's a really great movie, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Jude Law and Haley Joel Osment when he was very young, and was a Stanley Kubrick film. So one of my first sci-fi films I'd ever seen. Trust me, there's a point here. So If you had asked me about 5 or 6 years ago what I thought about AI, I would have told you it's this movie. But if you're unfamiliar, the plot is about a robotic boy who's the first boy programmed to love, who's adopted as a test case by a Cybertronics employee, which is like this company that's making all of this robot AI. And it's one of the first sci-fi films I ever saw, and it truly defined, as a non-technical individual at the time, computer science was but a twinkle in my eye. I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and it's a fascinating commentary on robotic sentience, machine intelligence. It's a heartbreaking film. If you want to cry, definitely check it out. Now, I bring this up because all I knew about artificial intelligence, and the first time I had ever heard a reference to AI, was in this film. And it not only made it feel above and beyond my skill set, I mean, I can't build a robotic boy who can love people. And I always thought, okay, wow, this is like some, sci-fi stuff that I'm never, ever going to know how to build. So let's talk a little bit about what artificial intelligence actually is. So what is it? What is AI exactly? Now, if you do a basic Google internet search, a Bing search, if you will, on what is AI or what is machine learning, you're going to get a lot of images and some matrix looking, code overlaid as a brain, face, body, hands, symbolizing data, information, and training that information that becomes human-like, hence the brain in a lot of situations, like we'll see right here. A lot of pictures like this, right? So this visual representation in Simple has become very person-like, and that is because what artificial intelligence is looking to help create machine learning that helps us make decisions and learn things. And we try to train those learnings to create simulations and help predict outcomes, recognize speech, and so many more things. So I know we have many probably citizen developers who are watching, maybe some computer science students as well, maybe people who are completely new to anything artificial intelligence. And I'm going to assume that most folks are newer to artificial intelligence as well, or maybe even feel a little afraid of it, right? The idea of machines or robots or technologies kind of becoming smart or sentient enough to make decisions feels like something very technical and beyond the scope of what can be accomplished by someone not familiar with code or machine learning or anything like that. Well, don't worry. We're gonna get there. So no, it really is true. You can do a lot of really, really cool things with machine learning, with artificial intelligence. It's not as sci-fi as you think it is. In fact, there's ways that you can use artificial intelligence and machine learning in super simple, easy, impactful ways. And as I mentioned, I worked in a number of non-technical jobs before working as a cloud advocate here at Microsoft. I was a student performing as an actress in the Bay Area. I held several jobs outside of tech, and I now clearly see that I could have made my life and my roles at these companies much easier with the power of what I can do without any code at all. So I'm going to walk you through how I got started with AI and gradually got more intricate and complicated working in the cloud and making all these awesome, AI projects. But it really started from just a very, very simple UI, which is really cool. So I'm going to show you a couple examples and demos of cool things that I think I could have helped me a lot more when I was working in other jobs. So if you're unfamiliar with AI Builder, this is how I got started with AI. And this is a no-code interface that allows folks to enhance apps and business processes with artificial intelligence that's easy to build with Power Apps. And so, of course, this is a talk that we're talking all about AI, so I don't need to go into too much detail about like why would we use AI, but I want to reiterate how exciting it is that this is available to anyone. So we're talking like very technical people who know how to code, citizen developers, like people who work in the corner store, mom and pop shop, who maybe want to get up and running with their business. This is really, truly accessible to anyone without knowing how to code. But if you do obtain those skills, or you do know how to code, you can even build beyond this and even get more specific with the artificial intelligence and machine learning that you want to do. So people can really leverage Power Platform, which a lot of folks think, oh, this is something for admins, but it's also something that really simplifies the process for us. And also, it makes this technology a lot more accessible to other people. So here's a couple real life examples. This one's my favorite. Okay, here's a picture. This is actually me. My first job, not even one of my very first jobs, my first job ever was at the Disney store. I know, hard to believe, right? So when I worked at the Disney store, I had several retail jobs when I worked in college. And if you've ever worked in retail before, if you've ever run a retail business, you know that inventory management is crucial. At least once a year, stores are required to audit what items or what merchandise they have in stock, which allows the business to not only obtain that data, see if any shoplifting has occurred, if they're missing any items, if they need to order more items, for example, but it also allows them to audit for any sort of inconsistencies in their inventory. So inventory is essentially a huge part of business management, and as an employee, inventory night meant you stayed overnight, usually till closing, which is around 10:30, 11 p.m., all the way to 2 or 3 in the morning when no customers are in the store, so you don't have to worry about counting different items being taken out, and then returning home, falling asleep, going to your college classes the next morning in my case. And for a boutique store that sells maybe 40 to 100 SKUs, this isn't bad. But consider situations like this, which is a true story. This actually happened to me. One night when I was working at the Disney store, we had to count how many magic towels were in the Disney store. If you don't know what a magic towel is, they look kind of like this. There's these little tiny towels that when you put them in water, they expand. And if you've ever been to the Disney store before, they have a lot of characters, right? They've got Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, oh my goodness. They've got Penelope Von Schweetz from Wreck-It Ralph. They've got every character in the world on a magic towel. And we had, at the time, to not only count every towel, but take note of the SKU. And we were doing this by hand. We were doing all this, manual data entry. But guess what? Now humans, working overnight on a little bit of sleep, there's a lot of room for error there, right? You're going through your 100th or 300th magic towel. Maybe you get the SKU number a little bit off, and that makes inaccurate data. Now imagine, instead of having to count those hundreds and hundreds of magic towels, if you could just take a picture, have that documented more quickly and efficiently, and have less room for potential error. Well, I wish I could go back in a time machine, because that is totally possible. So something that usually required 2 to 3 people to stay overnight and count all these SKUs on towels, with something like Power Automate can literally take a couple seconds. Let me show you how. So with Power Automate, we have this really, really simple way that we're able to just, with a visual interface, without using any code, be able to break all of this down. So first we would select a domain, which would be images on retail shelves. So that would look a little something like this, right? We would take a picture and we would tell this interface, hey, we want you to identify all of the objects on these retail shelves, and we want to give each one of them a unique identifier, right? This eliminates, me and my buddy at the Disney store having to write down every single SKU, taking hours and hours overnight. This is something that we could have totally used Power Platform for, but I didn't know what AI was back then, so wah wah. Then, after you've identified those different items in the photo, you can choose the objects. So in this case, we're doing magic towels, right? So we have blue towel, green towel, orange towel, miscellaneous towel. Those could be SKUs in the case of the Disney store back in the day, right? So then we want to tag the images. This is kind of like tagging images on MySpace, right? So we tag which one's a miscellaneous towel, which one's a green towel, which one's a blue towel, and so on and so forth. And that's object detection. We've literally just cleaned our data, trained our data, and made it as accurate as we can to be able to show and predict how much inventory we need. So then after that, really all we have to do is train the data, go through all of the data and make sure that all of the images are actually showing up correctly here. So you publish your AI model and you're good to go. So this is with no code, right? Like this is just with the UI. So there are so many things that you can use with no code at all. And this is how I got started with artificial intelligence and machine learning. I literally took a step way back, really figured out how my brain, got my brain to figure out, all right, so I'm identifying these unique items, then I'm training the models. then once I got more knowledge of code, I was able to go through and do all of these awesome things. So you see all these things that are listed here, like language detection, sentiment analysis, text recognition, business card reader. Oh my gosh, I used to be an executive assistant and I would have to manually copy all of these business cards, physical business cards, into a computer. It was a nightmare. So all of these things, I could have automated my job. Maybe it's actually good that I'm not an EA anymore, because I would have automated my job with all the power of platform at this point. But AI is everywhere. So once I was able to get those basic skills of like, all right, so in order to use artificial intelligence, I kind of had extracted it a bit with Power Platform. Like I got my images, I trained the image data set, I tagged them, then I know what they are. Then I discovered, oh wow, there's all this cool stuff that I can do in the cloud, that I can do with serverless using AI and ML. So this is one of my favorite projects that I have in this slide here. This was using the Microsoft Face API, which is this awesome part of Azure that honestly probably one of my favorite parts of Azure. Don't tell Clippy. Well, Clippy's not part of Azure. Forget I said that. But I used the Microsoft Face API to identify cosplay images of Mario Kart players to determine what your Mario Kart player said about your astrology sign. I use astrology sign very loosely here because this is fake astrology, right? But there's so many cool things that you can do with sentiment analysis, data analysis, and this is all artificial intelligence. And we have tools that can help us with these things. So cool, right? So I am very new to AI and ML. I really mean this when I say I am a beginner. I am very early in my journey as a developer using artificial intelligence machine learning. But if you want to go beyond Power Platform, I've got this lovely link here, aka.ms/beepboop Power Platform. That is going to take you to a really awesome free resource online where you can learn how to use artificial intelligence and machine learning with no code and low code, because I know we've got a lot of new learners here. However, I've just started my fun little new journey of learning all about data sets, artificial intelligence, machine learning. We're using basketball data from Space Jam to New Legacy on this really lovely show with my pal Ornella here called Beep Boop. And every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, we're hanging out for about an hour. It's a very cozy, safe, stress-free environment live on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, where we just learn all about AI and ML. We have never learned it before, and this is a space for you to ask your questions, for us to learn together. And don't worry, there's recordings afterwards you can check out. But if you go to aka.ms/beepboopbitproject, you can watch all of our previous episodes, and you can also check out aka.ms/beepboopreplay to sign up for any of our future episodes that we have coming up. But I'm here to say, if this gal, a musical theater actress who saw the movie AI in theaters as a child, thought there's no way in a million years I'm going to be able to create a sentient artificial intelligence robot that looks like Haley Joel Osment. Well, I was right on that end. I'm not really ready to make that Haley Joel Osment robot. However, I work with AI now, and I work with machine learning, and it's a totally accessible thing for you to get started with. I get a lot of people who come to me and say, Chloe, machine learning is scary. It seems like a very difficult world to get into. Artificial intelligence, how do I train a computer what to do? Well, we got you. So come and join us on Tuesdays. If you're looking to maybe get a certification or just get started with a free resource online, I highly recommend this Power Platform Learn module. Really great way to get your feet wet with the basics of everything that you need to just get started in the same way that I did with magic towels, right? Thank you all so much for coming and joining me today. I'm really excited for this event. We've got some amazing speakers who are also speaking today, like Lizzie and Maddie. I'm so excited for you to learn more. And if you have any questions, come and say hi to me on Twitter at Chloe Condon. And I can't wait to see what you build with AI and ML, because if I can do it, you can do it too. Bye, y'all.